Hey guys, welcome to the Road to ProRaw 9, Episode 2. I'm Ben Winstone, of course. Thank you for joining me again. We made it through Episode 1. The feedback wasn't completely horrible. I'm not curled up in a ball over there crying. It was mainly constructive and positive. I know there was a few issues with sound. I didn't realise this until after the video was made. Hence this week I'm wearing a microphone, hoping it will alleviate that. But, thank you. I appreciate the support. A couple of new Instagram followers as well. But just a reminder, of course, guys, that Instagram followers aren't the be-all and end-all of life. So don't take it too seriously if somebody unfollows you or doesn't follow you when you follow them. Go outside and take a good dose of reality. This week, it's a little bit quieter at the moment. It's just after 1 a.m. I've just finished my squat session for week 3 of my training, which will, of course, appear in episode 3. But for now, let's review last week's training and see how things went. So in squats, I decided to use the 300 kilo program of the PTC P method, which I ended up going for my heaviest set of 5 of 227.5 kilos or 500 pounds in the old money. It felt reasonably easy or comfortable, as this video will show.
Girl.
I went a little bit above what the program asked for, and I guess that's the beauty of using this method, is that you can tweak it depending on how you feel. And I'll explain a little bit later on in the video exactly which numbers I choose and why. But I think the top set was meant to be 225, and I bumped it up just another 2.5 kilos because I felt through warm-ups that things were going fine. And I also followed this up with a couple of sets of box squats at 205 kilos for sets of 5. Now, I've done the box squats after my regular squats because I'm still battling a couple of glute sort of issues, a little bit of impingement there, and I find that doing 5 or 6 heavy sets of squats really sets it off. So the last 2 sets lately I've been doing box squats, which also helps build that glute and hamstring strength and kind of alleviates that pain I've noticed. So I think it'll be a positive all round, I'm hoping, but only time will tell, I guess. And these squats were followed by reverse hyperextensions and then also single leg lunges for 4 sets of 10 using a 16 kilo kettlebell. And the first week back using those, it was quite tough, and I highly recommend it that you give it a go. It's good for sort of working on some imbalances and also that core strength. So moving on to bench press. This has also been an exercise that's working quite well at the moment, considering the shoulder injuries I've had in the past. They are flaring up a tiny bit, but I'm sort of trying to work around it and not stress that area too much and make sure that my form is quite good. So I worked up to my heaviest set of 160 for 5, 160 kilos of course, being in here in Australia for my international friends. That was a little bit above the program, and for that I've chosen a little bit of a hybrid between the P 200-210 kilo program, which will sort of give me the flexibility to adjust it week on week depending on how the shoulders feel. But at the moment everything feels quite strong and I haven't missed any reps. This was followed by sets of 5 at 155, 147.5 and 2 at 140. And some accessory work were pull-ups, lat pull-downs, kettlebell rows, and then some arm workout, so biceps and tricep stuff. And finally deadlifts. So last week was my first deadlift session, And for this, I've chosen the Triple P 310 kilogram program. I think that that's reasonably accurate. It's not going to be too tough during training, but should still be reasonably achievable as well. So that ended up going for 2 sets of 5 at 240 kilos. Now this week I experimented a little bit. The first set of 240 I did without a belt. And it was quite hot, so excuse the shirt off. Hence the, living up to the name the White Juggernaut, because it certainly is quite bright. But for the second set, I put a belt on and also focused, as you'll see in the later part of the set, really pushing with the legs off the ground and helping to keep that back in a better position, because in the past I've been quite probably notorious for having a reasonably rounded back. It's never really had any injuries. I have traditionally pulled beltless. And only in the last 2 comps I've used a belt for heavy singles. Trying things each week. I mean, that's part of the fun of training sometimes as well, as experimenting and trying different things. Both sets felt okay. I think the second set with the belt, I think generally will always look better and feel better. And this was followed by multiple sets of 220 for 5. Next week, I think I might step it up to the 320 kilo program and see how that goes. Considering last 2 comps I pulled between 317 and 325, even though the 325 was unsuccessful. I think if I had have gone 320 on the day, I probably would have got it. So yeah, we'll just play it week by week at the moment with that one and see how it goes, and try and perhaps hybrid it as well between the 310 to 320 kilo program. So question time. Thank you to the couple of people that sent through questions. There were also a couple of other slightly unusual requests. Sending a shout out to Big Lenny, whoever you are. Send those through. I'm happy I've got a feeling that might snowball into something ridiculous by episode 8 or 10 or something like that. But I had a few questions about the program that I use, the PTC Triple P method. Now, you can get a copy of this from Marcos Markopoulos on Facebook. Add him as a friend. He's the face of GPC in Melbourne. He's happy to send this to you. Last week I tagged him in a post about it, and there was dozens of people asking for it. So if you're one of those people that got the program and you've had a look at it, I'll explain exactly how I think is the best way to choose numbers for it, so that you set yourself up for success in the best way and perhaps don't overstretch things and end up to failure before you even get to the competition. Okay, so now I'll just quickly go through and explain how I pick the numbers for this program. Now, I'll try not to spend too much time on it because this is just a program that I use. I mean, there's dozens of programs out there. Whichever coach you have probably has their own program as well. So, one of the questions I did receive was, how do I choose the numbers, from somebody that currently uses this program. So as you'll see when you go through it, obviously you can't see, it's too small, but the weights go up by sort of 5 kilo increments from about, 50 kilos or something. And then as it goes over sort of 200, it starts to go into 10 kilo increments and tops out at this one at 320. So what I like to do is choose my previous comp best and then use that as the training number. So for example, squats, last competition I attempted 305. I did miss it. 300 probably I would have made it. This time round, I've decided to go for the 300 program as a reasonably safe bet, because I think after another 10 or 11 weeks of training, if I can't squat 300 kilos comfortably in the gym, I may as well give this up. The unknown, of course, as I mentioned last week, was using wraps. So I'll just have to wait and see in the second half of that program what sort of effect the wraps have on my lifts, and then tweak it accordingly. But the problem is, if I had have chosen the 320 kilo program, for example, in week 9, it has a set of 240, 272, 295, 305, and then 2 sets of 255. So in week 9, I'm already hitting a PB. And then in week 10, I have to hit 305 and 312 and a half, and then 2 sets of 272 and a half, and then week 11, 305 and 320. So that's 3 weeks in a row I'd have to hit PB squats, which I think is probably too big of an ask. It may be possible with the reps, I don't know. That's the great unknown for me at this stage, but I'd rather dial it back a little bit, hit the 300 easily, and then do a couple of additional sets if I believe that there's a fair bit of untapped strength there still. So that's probably the way that I'd choose it. If you're lucky enough to have a competition and get straight back into training, then perhaps you can choose 10 kilos more than what you hit. I mean, everyone's different. It depends on how long you've been training, how often you train, supplements you use, etc. So it really does depend on the lifter. But what I like to do is choose the number that I hit in competition previously and then aim to hit that in training. In most of my competitions, I've never hit a sort of PB in training. I've left that on the platform, and I think that's the way you should do it. For example, when I squatted 302 and a half, the most I squatted in the gym was 290. When I pulled 317 and a half, or had an attempt at 325, the most I deadlifted was 315. When I benched 190 and then 200, the most I'd done in training was 180 and then 185. So I've found I've always got somewhere between a 10 to 15 kilo jump from my training max to my competition day, which probably shows that I've peaked reasonably well and haven't sort of burnt myself out in those final weeks of training. And I think that's the way that you should aim to train towards a powerlifting competition. But it is important as well to realise that there's no magical program. Nothing can sort of replace excellent technique or very good technique, and also hard work and commitment. So don't be a potato and wait on the program to try and bring you some sort of magical success. It's not going to happen. You've got to put the hard work in. For example, tonight I squatted at after midnight. I had a birthday for my mother earlier this evening. I had some other stuff on during the day, so I couldn't get into the gym, but I'm also on a short week this week because I'm going interstate on Friday, so I've still got a bench and deadlift, and if I didn't do it tonight, it was just going to really stuff up my schedule. So, 12 o'clock, 1 a.m, I was out here getting it done. I know it's not practical for everybody, but, sometimes you've just got to push yourself, and I still hit all my lifts, and we'll go through them next week, but just an example of you've got to put the hard yards in to get those rewards. If I check up on the board, 10 weeks out from competition now, so really starting to finish off the volume stuff, and we're going to start getting into some of the heavier triples and things like that over the next few weeks. I do have to start wrapping my knees. I was going to do it this week in week 3, but I started rolling up the wrap, and I dropped it and I cracked the shit, so I put the sleeves back on. So probably next week I'll have to start manning up and putting them on and see how we go. Once again, you can find me on Instagram at TheWhiteJuggernaut, spelt Juggernaut this way. Still haven't received that lawsuit from Chad Wesley Smith yet, so fingers crossed we can get through a few more weeks. Still haven't received any sponsorship opportunities either, so I've got no coolers to sell you guys. I've got no special knee sleeves, no wrist wraps, no compression cuffs, no protein or other supplements. So I will consider all offers. There's plenty of space behind me here for sale, and I'm prepared to sell out. But thank you guys for watching. Take care. Have a good training week, and I'll see you soon.